Okay, we ready?
Oh, should we bring, okay.
Yeah.
Call us to order.
Good morning, everyone. Call the meeting to order. We're here this morning for the interview process of the Board of Supervisors vacancy vacated when Mr. DeWitt resigned. So we're here this morning for those interviews. Appreciate everyone being here this morning and taking the time for this process. The first thing that we need to do is approve the agenda set forth for this morning's hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this morning?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Having a second, take a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda for this morning, say aye.
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 Vote passes 3-0. Second thing on the agenda this morning is to approve the minutes from the January 12th, 2023 meeting, with the one change being that because we have a jury trial scheduled for tomorrow morning, and that the potential jurors always use the basement for jury education, that our room is not available. So we will not begin deliberations until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning instead of 8:30 a.m. as was discussed at the previous meeting. So other than that particular change from the minutes, do the minutes look okay? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 12th meeting?
I motion to approve with the change noted.
Just to clarify, the minutes won't change. That's what we actually did during the meeting. But the time does change.
Do I have a second to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vote passes 3-0. So the minutes have been approved. Again, the one change to that is that we'll begin at 10 o'clock a.m. for the deliberation tomorrow morning down in the basement. The next thing on the agenda this morning is to determine the interview of the candidates. And so initially the discussion, my great idea was to have the clerk's office generate that list for us, but they aren't able to put it into their computer system. So we have to do it the old-fashioned way. And we're going to put them in a box and spin the box, and we will draw candidates. And so we will just do them one right after the other until we have our order 1 through 9. And so we will let everyone know what order you're going to go in so that you can make plans, arrangements if you need to do that this morning. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Ms. Bertrand, if you want to go ahead and start selecting our names.
Okay. First one is John Crick.
Mr. Crick will be first. Okay.
Second is Jeanette Beekman.
Ms. Beekman. Okay.
Third is Charles Clark.
Mr. Clark. All right.
Fourth is Barbara Sloniker.
Sloniker. All right.
Fifth will be Mark Nelson.
Mr. Nelson is number 5. All right.
Sixth would be Todd Wick.
Mr. Wick. Okay.
7 is Nathan Heelman.
All right. Mr. Hammond.
8 will be Chad Benson.
Mr. Benson.
And our final will be Willard McNaughton.
Mr. McNaughton. Okay, so the order is as follows, just to repeat. Mr. Crick, Ms. Beekman, Mr. Clark, Ms. Sloniker, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Wick, is it Heilman or Heilman? Heilman. Mr. Heilman, Mr. Benson, and Mr. McNaughton. Okay. Just to let the candidates know and to let everybody know, I have a couple court hearings this morning, so we'll have to take a break a little before 10 o'clock and a little before 1 o'clock for me to go and take care of those. I'm thinking that those will take about an hour apiece. So we'll just plan to be on break during those portions of time that I'm upstairs in the courtroom. So just to let everyone know and to plan accordingly for that. So at this point in time, I believe we are ready to begin the interview process. Ms. Bertrand, do you agree?
I agree.
Mr. Gill, do you agree? Okay, so, Mr. Crick, if you want to step forward and give us your presentation, we're ready to listen. Whenever you're ready to begin, go ahead.
Come right up here, Jeff.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Crick. Whenever you're ready.
You want to go over my resume? Is that what you want to do?
Well, this is your opportunity, Mr. Crick, just to do your presentation. You can tell us anything that you think is necessary about your skills, your qualifications, anything that you believe that you would like us to hear in consideration of your application for the vacancy.
I've been involved with school boards, Woodbury County Fair boards. Been on a volunteer ambulance squad for 45 years. Graduated from Indiana State University. And if you want to look at my resume, we could go over that. I can't, what I wrote on there. If you got any questions about that. Yeah. I was a veteran of 4 years in the U.S. Navy. I taught high school for 3 years. A Chevrolet service manager in 5 years. In the Chevrolet Only the Best Club in Omaha zone for 4 years. Co-owner of J&J Motor in Mobile for 13 years. Transportation director in Woodbury Central School, 20 years. A J.C. Penney Excellence Award for Community Award. And I was in the Flight 232 cockpit after that crashed. Okay, question?
Anything else that you want to say as part of your presentation, Mr. Crick?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Ms. Bertrand, you want to begin with questions this morning?
Sure. Mr. Crick, thank you for coming today and this morning to introduce yourself to us and the community at large. Some of the questions that I would have is, given some of the latest issues that we have in the rural area of our community with the wind energy, carbon pipeline, any other renewable energy sources, what would be your greatest asset that would help with these that would help address these issues and that would be able to balance the role as a supervisor to handle both the rural and urban components of our community?
Well, I'd have to be educated in a little more to decide. I see a lot of advertising around, but I don't know yet all the basics there. But once I heard them, then I could go accordingly.
Okay. Another question that I would have is, can you describe in more detail the relationship between the Board of Supervisors as a supervisor and the other duly elected officials, how that impacts the autonomy of the office and the relationship with the Compensation Board?
Well, I read that 331 paper, and it shows the sheriff and his office, and I've never been around this enough to know all the relationships, but I'd like to learn the whole county government system.
Okay, my last question would be, if you were to make one statement about yourself that would leave a lasting impression, what would it be?
Well, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to budgets.
So a fiscal conservative?
Physical, yes.
I think that's about all the questions I would have this morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gill, do you have any questions this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Crick.
Morning.
I've been impressed with all 9 candidates that we have here. I think we have a very good slate here. You mentioned that you were on site for the 232 rescue.
Yes.
Can you tell me how that came about?
Well, I live in Mobile, and when that plane got in trouble east of over by Storm Lake, we had some radio messages that it was in trouble. So some of the units were heading from Sioux City east, and we called the squad together, and we're standing down in the front of the station, and here he came. He's really, really low and slow for a big plane. So we followed him to Sioux City, and it was just a matter of the first duties you got was just a matter of 15 seconds. It would be different. And I happened to be in a truck, and they asked us what we had, what we could do, and we said we had the jaws of life. So they sent us to the cockpit. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but the cockpit was sheared off by itself. And there was 4 men in there, pilot, co-pilot, and one pilot came from the back. He was a passenger. And then another flight person. So they were all trapped in there, laying out in the middle of that field. And so I happened to my first thing I got to do out there was I did get to help one of the men. I drug him out, cut his belt off, drug him out. We had to cut a bunch of wiring harnesses first to get that separated. And the air guard separated the structure so we could drag those men out. So that's basically what happened.
And you were with what, volunteer ambulance service, or how
Yes,
were you tied to-
Mobile Ambulance Rescue.
Pardon?
Mobile Ambulance and Rescue, it's called.
Okay. How many years did you spend with them there?
45.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Gill? Good morning, Mr. Crick. Thanks for taking the time to apply and go through this process. Can you tell me how you've got a lot of experiences over the years. Can you tell me how all of those experiences that you've had will translate to what you would do if selected to be on the Board of Supervisors?
Well, that airplane experience, I hope we don't have anything like that again, but
Me too. Me too.
but I've been with the school board, things like that, and you learn how to negotiate and think and discuss those things and go through that.
Well, what was the one thing that you took from your experience on the board or on the school board? What do you think is most important as a collective when you're dealing with?
Our budget.
But in working with people, what do you think is most important?
Oh, be level-headed.
What about your experience in the U.S. Navy? Do you think can help you or assist you with being on the Board of Supervisors?
With what, sir?
Your service in the U.S. Navy?
Oh, well, for one thing, it was, they said, it was got to go to a very good school. We sat in the classroom 40 hours a week for 1 year for our training. And then we were on duty 24 hours a day. We had the only dual radar system in the Navy it has, and that was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And we got up day or night. When one was up, and then the other one was on standby. And if the other one went down, they woke you up and you went and worked on that day or night till the other one was on. One was up on standby. So there was just a work ethic, hard work.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Crick.
Thank you.
Those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You can go ahead and have a seat, Mr. Crick. Thank you for your time. Ms. Beekman? Good morning, Ms. Beekman. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
I am currently the city clerk in Pearson. I have 16-plus years' experience there. Working in government, I think I could easily transfer that to the county level. I've put together a lot of budgets, understand the tax levy system, residential rollbacks, worked on elections, worked with library boards, public works, TIF, lost, all of the things that I think that would transfer nicely to the county level. Worked on a few disasters, had to think quickly, resolve problems quickly, sometimes Band-Aid those fixes until you could get a more permanent solution. Thinking outside of the box, I know, like Mr. Loomis, you said your department's short-handed a couple meetings ago. First thing I thought of was, could you 28E with another county to bring somebody in, try to fill that gap until you got people hired. County-wise, I think funding our public safety department, the sheriff's office, making sure that they can do their job safely and provide effective, efficient service to the rest of the county, the cities that they have that 28E with. Three things I think it takes for a successful county are good jobs, people to fill those jobs, and affordable housing. And I think the backbone to all three of those is sustainable infrastructure, which comes from the county level. Having a plan forward and a way to fund that plan. I know the Board of Supervisors has, harped on keeping a flat tax rate, which everybody wants, lower taxes, but you also have to make sure that you can fund moving forward. I wish they would, at some point, revisit the rural economic development. I think that's an important department. I think it was a lot to dump on planning and zoning. And standing here in front of you today, I don't know what that would look like, but I just think it needs to be revisited. I appreciate the transparency that the current board has made more a priority. And I think gaining trust with the people that you represent, listening, communicating back with them is important to let them know that you're working for them and not just for yourself. I would love the opportunity to bring my knowledge to the supervisors board and help Woodbury County thrive and prosper. I've read through the ISAC Board of Supervisors manual over the last couple weeks. The first 50 pages were, city county was very similar. Then I got to collective bargaining, which I know nothing about, but I am willing to learn. And I've tackled things before in the past where I got thrown in, or I didn't always want to be thrown in, but you learn and move on. And that's about all I have, I guess. Thank you guys for being here this morning and listening to all of us.
Thank you, Ms. Beekman. I'll turn it over to Ms. Bertrand for any questions.
Ms. Beekman, thank you again for coming today and expressing your interest in filling this position. One of the questions that I would have is, based on your current employment commitments and any other committee appointments that you might have, how will that impact your ability to serve as a supervisor and be able to handle the assigned committees that would be a supervisor role?
Yeah, so my office hours are currently 9 to 12, so I don't think it would be an issue with the normal board meetings. Other committees that I'm assigned to, that job is pretty flexible. I go in on Saturdays and Sundays when I need to and catch up. And
Do you see any potential conflicts of interest with anything that you're serving with right now?
I've looked through that. I've read through the Iowa Code. I didn't see anything that would be a conflict of interest. Couldn't find anything online that would be a conflict of interest.
Okay. In terms of, I'm going to ask the same question regarding the relationship between the Board of Supervisors, the other duly elected officials. Can you describe in more detail your understanding of that, the autonomy of each office, and how the relationship with the Compensation Board works?
So my understanding is that the Board of Supervisors kind of holds the purse strings for those other departments, sets the budget for those departments. The Compensation Board sets what they think that the wages should be, and it's up to the Board of Supervisors to make that final decision.
Okay, in terms, can you explain a little bit more when, with the statement about the board holds the purse strings and sets the budget? What past setting the budget is the role of the supervisor in terms of managing the budget or managing the expenses for each department?
I would assume that they would get reports from each department on where they're at in the budget cycle, and if they need to cut back on something or amend the budget if there's an emergency that arose that needed more funds for that department.
Okay, thank you. The last question I would ask you would be the same. If you were to make one statement about yourself that would leave a lasting impression, what would it be?
I'm someone that digs in and doesn't give up. If there's a challenge in front of me, I'm willing to take it.
Okay, I think that's it for me today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gill?
Yes. Thank you for applying. Maybe a month or so ago, the mayor from Mobile made a proposal to the Board of Supervisors to go in and basically hire a building inspector that all the cities could use. Were you familiar with that?
I am, yep.
Okay. And do you think that is something that the board could have done a better job of?
I do wish there was something that could be done at the county level for that. Pearson, just as an example, lost 22 houses between the 2010 census and the 2020 census. That's a lot of tax revenue that's lost from the city, from the county. I think if we could do something to keep those properties cleaned up and the property values up, it helps countywide.
And you think that would have been possible through a 2080 agreement?
Yeah, and I'm hoping that Mobile isn't giving up on it because we do all need it.
Just one other question is just, you had a situation where basically everybody in the city resigned and you kind of put the city on your back. And can you explain what occurred, why that occurred? And
So we had the mayor left and the public works happened to be his son. He left with him. And three of the other council people left, leaving the town with just me as an employee and two council people that were unable to legally make any decisions. We couldn't appoint, we couldn't pay bills, we couldn't hire anybody. I worked with the state auditor's office to figure out what we could do and what we couldn't do. I jumped in, I mowed the park, mowed the cemetery, dug cremations at the cemetery, took on the water and wastewater system. I still have those licenses and I still do that for the town. It was a stressful few months. It's a good weight loss plan. And eventually we got people elected and we got people hired and we're back doing good now.
Very good, thank you. I appreciate the work you do on the landfill committee.
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Beekman.
Good morning.
Appreciate you being here this morning. Okay, so tell me about the situation with the city of Quimby. Like, you get this put in your lap
At Quimby?
at Quimby.
Yeah.
So this gets put on your lap, your plate.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought process?
For the FEMA project, or which part of it? Because there's a lot of moving pieces there.
Not having any money.
Oh, not having any money. Yeah, that's. So I have worked with that council on trying to figure out, ways to move forward. We've increased water rates. And nobody's happy. I'm sure I'm the least favorite person in that town. We've increased water rates. We've put on some infrastructure fees for the water sewer system to make that part of it sustainable. There wasn't really much else I could do until the next budget season for, getting them kind of out of that hole. Right now I'm working on getting them to follow the state code on their finances. And we've kind of got that handled and just got the library board left to get on board with that.
So is this all your plan
Yeah,
that you
Yeah.
put together and how to kind of get that situation turned around?
yeah.
How do you think it's going?
I think it's going well. We'll know more after the budget process is completed over there.
How many years do you think it would take to get it turned around?
I think in 3 years, they could see it looking pretty good.
I've noticed in my travels about Woodbury County over this past year that the clerks have a lot of responsibilities within those communities. How do you think that your experience as a clerk and what you've done as a clerk, beyond what you've already said, how do you think that that translates in terms of working with a group of people and making decisions collectively? Or, in the alternative, when you have disagreements with those people, how do you work together?
I'm a detail-oriented research person, so I think, digging in, finding all the details that you can, presenting your side, listening to the other side. We are kind of, like a lot of clerks are kind of a one-man show, and it's really, you have to put all the pieces together and present what you have.
Do you think that that's going to be a challenge for you if you're on this board of supervisors?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Working with the supervisors?
Yeah.
I've listened to meetings. I started listening weekly back in September, I think. And before that, I just kind of listened to the hot topic issues. But the board now, I think there's 4 Republicans, and I'm surprised how often they vote against each other. It's not always, it wasn't always 5-0. I think it's okay to voice your opinion on this board, and to me, the Board of Supervisors should be more public service than political.
Thank you, Ms. Beekman. I don't have any other questions. Thanks for taking the time. Mr. Clark, come forward whenever you're ready.
Good morning. That's a tough act to follow. She's got some great experiences, it sounds like. My name's Charles Clark. Live north of Lawton on my family farm dating back to 1888. I'm the 6th generation to farm that land, and it does teach you a lot of skills. Humility being one of the first. As a young man beginning to farm, I had to be thoughtful, considerate, and understanding of my forefathers and, more importantly, my grandfather at the time. He taught me to appreciate what was done before my time and the accomplishments they made not only in the fields, but what was all around me, from everything as something as simple as a tool or as big as a grove of trees, that there was all planned and there was a purpose to all of it as well. Working with others is an important skill I have learned on the farm as well. I'm currently fine-tuning that skill with my two sons, who are 9 and 12. The youngest is full of great ideas, but is somewhat short-tempered when it comes to doing a project. The oldest, somewhat bossy, and wants to be in charge. So you can probably imagine 20 minutes into each project explodes in frustration towards one another. But by teaching them and telling them not to quit and see something from the other's point of view, and a few cookies doesn't hurt as well, we can usually come together and get the job done. Management has a lot of different angles on the farm, whether it be time management, money management, land management. They all require the ability to make good decisions for the longevity of my business and my family. I run, by today's standards, a small farm of about 700 acres, which is why I try to work a full-time job. Between the two jobs, I have my hands full some days, and being a good manager helps to make it all happen. Keeping an eye on expenses and inputs, as well as trying to market a crop, grow a crop, and see it delivered to the elevator are just a few things involved. Being an equipment operator is also a great skill that I have. I've been operating equipment since I was tall enough to reach the pedals. By doing so, not only taught me how to operate in all types of environments, but has also taught me about purchasing the right equipment for the job, and maintaining the equipment for a long life, and knowing when you need to sell a piece of equipment to avoid expensive breakdowns. Maintaining roads is a skill I'm currently doing for the county. I feel people's pain when driving down a bumpy road or getting your clean car covered in mud. Or my favorite, driving by an old couch or mattress that somebody has thrown on the side of the road. It's aggravating some days, to say the least, but mostly out of our control. Road workers take some of the blame, but are there just to help pick up the pieces and get people where they want to go. We can't control Mother Nature from raining in January or the frost from going out 3 times in one season, but we try to help the welfare of the citizens of Woodbury County. In closing, I think my time in the secondary roads would be beneficial to the board in some fashion. Also, knowledge of buying and operating equipment could help us cut down on some major expenses. But probably my most important skills of humility, working with others, and management make me a solid choice for this position. I know I will have to work hard to get up to speed to knowing exactly what a board member does, and will give it my best shot and try not to disappoint the 3 of you or the residents of Woodbury County. Also, thank you for your time today, and thank you for all that you do for Woodbury County.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Ms. Bertrand?
Thank you, Mr. Clark, for being here again today with the other candidates. I think my first question for you is going to be, what would be your top asset that you would bring to the Board of Supervisors, and how would that support your top priorities as a supervisor?
I'd say my top asset would be the 9 years of experience I have in the road department. Road department's a huge part of the county's budget, and I think I could bring a lot of good insight to what goes on and what they need, and maybe why things do fail sometimes prematurely.
Do you see any conflicts of interest or any struggles transitioning from a staff member at secondary roads into being a supervisor, which would be a department by which you would be, you would have responsibility supervising?
Right. I would plan to resign from the road department. Me and Mark get along pretty good. I'm the head union steward for CWA, so I sit down and talk with Mark frequently about hard topics, and I can't see it being a problem. I get along pretty good with him, so.
So did you say that your intent would be to resign from your position in
Yes, it
secondary
would.
roads
Yeah,
if you were?
I'm hoping
selected?
to step back. I work a lot of hours, and if the supervisor's position would be somewhat less, that's kind of what I'm looking for in my life. You can't burn the candle at both ends forever. And farming is very tough to get, you plateau at that 700 acres, and you either got to go to 3,000 or just, stay where you're at and be happy with that second job.
Do you see any conflicts or any items that might actually impact your ability with your current commitments with farming, how that would impact your ability to serve as a supervisor, not only to meet the weekly meetings, but any other committee assignment that you might be assigned to?
Time-wise, no. I can put anything I have to do at home off. I can get that done. That's become easy for me. I've done it since I was 5 years old, so putting a crop in is pretty simple. But one conflict of interest probably be the windmills. I would have to abstain from that. We've signed to put some up on our farm, and so we would have to watch what goes on there. But
Okay, my last question would be, again, given kind of the demographics or the makeup of Woodbury County, where we're the third largest from a geographical location and the sixth largest from a population perspective, with a high concentration of our population living in an urban area, what would be your greatest assets to be able to bridge that diversity that we have within our community between a rural area and a urban area? As a supervisor, although you live in a district, you're voted in countywide, and you actually serve the entire county.
yeah, that's a great question. My wife currently teaches in North Middle, and she keeps me well in tune to the diversity that we do have in the school systems and in the county. And yeah, I hear a lot of stories about kids, coming to school with no coats and all kinds of stories. So I would like to help those people out as well if I could.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Gill, anything for Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Clark. We have had employees that have served on the Board of Supervisors before. Sometimes can be a problem, and sometimes it's an advantage. Did you sit down and talk with Mr. Nara about
No, I haven't. I have not currently. We're currently in the middle of a grievance. And we're not speaking, but he's been gone a lot. I know he was in Washington, D.C. for almost the whole week, and he's had some vacations. And main reason I haven't is just because we haven't crossed paths. We work in the same building, so the opportunity's there if it arises. But no, I have not talked with him about it.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. You're a sixth-generation farmer, you said?
Yep.
What's your vision for Woodbury County?
Oh, well, I think we need to preserve a lot of what we have. Like I said, what's been done before us. On my farm, when they bought it, I don't even think there was roads. And those old timers, they set an amazing system in place to to make all that we have to be thankful for today. And I think we need to preserve that and keep moving forward with, you know, trying to bring new and better jobs to the town and even developments, you know, developing new bridges and new highways. And I think that's really important.
What would be your number one goal if you take your vision, what you want to see done in Woodbury County, what's your number one goal?
My number one goal as far as the road department would be some of the blacktops that we have are very dangerous. No shoulders, steep embankments. Anybody goes in the ditch, they almost always roll it. Fatalities happen quite often because of that. Be some serious undertakings to regrade some of those, but for the future standpoint, I think they need to be done with the more traffic that we have, especially going from Bronson to Highway 20. It's a dangerous little road, and they have the kids, you know, kids travel up and down it on school buses twice a day, and so that would be my main goal, you know, try to make things a little safer in ways that we can.
What kind of economic development do you think the county needs?
Well, I don't know. We've got pretty much everything, in my opinion, in Woodbury County. As far as development goes, we've got every store and business known to man. I suppose the economic development of the windmills would be a pretty good addition, you know, it would bring a lot of jobs and maybe even some manufacturing as far as that goes. But
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I appreciate your time here.
yep,
today.
thank you. Yep.
I think, just to be safe, we'll take a break. I'm going to run upstairs and do my 10 o'clock hearing. And so we'll just start anew here with Ms. Sloniker after my 10 o'clock hearing. So we'll be on break for a little while, probably an hour or so.